Hi there. Today is January the 12th of 2021 and it is around about 8 o'clock, maybe a bit earlier than that, p.m. And I thought I would be starting reading from a book, which I think is very beautiful, and I haven't read the book yet. I'm going to be reading it as I'm going to be reading from it. So all I can say is that I picked the book because I judged it from its cover, and it's a beautiful cover. And the title is The Comet Seekers by Helen Sedgwick, who is a Scottish writer. The book is from 2017. The first chapter is entitled Comet Jacobini, and we have the date 2017 right next to it. They arrive on the snow during the last endless day of summer. 48 hours of light, and then they gather outside to watch their first sunset of the south. The ice shelf they're standing on is floating slowly towards the coast, will one day melt into the sea. There is nothing permanent about this never-ending white. Roshin stamps her feet, watches the sky for the full 20 minutes of night, not that it ever gets dark. Dusk is the most she can hope for, this week at least, everything turning a golden red, the sun's rays like torchlight through the curved walls of a child's tent, the full moon opposite. It shines like a second sun, but fainter, its reflected light a ghost of the star below the horizon. During the day, some people run a marathon around the base, 8 laps of the research station at -10 degrees. Roshin joins them on their final lap. Her legs feel heavy. Gulps of air chill her lungs. The winner is lying flat on the snow at the finish line. When he sees her looking, he smiles up at her and says, "You should try it." "Maybe next time," she says. His name is François. He holds his hands over his eyes, trying to shield the glare. He looks so young. 1 hour, 40 minutes of darkness, and someone is behind her. 5 days she has been here. 5 days she has searched the sky alone. Roshin turns around. "What are you looking for?" François is here, wanting to see what she's doing to join in. She's not sure how she feels about that. She did not come here to make friends. Roshin thinks about telling him so, asking him to leave, but for some reason, she decides to let him stay. Beside her, François looks at the sky and exhales. "There is a comet predicted," he says. "It's going to be very bright. But it's too early. I mean, we're too soon." "Because it's not dark enough yet?" "Yes. Well, that and other things. It's beautiful, isn't it? Above them, colors swirl like sea mist." François stares where she is. Doesn't ask any more questions. He doesn't take his eyes from the sky. Roshin finds she has walked into the kitchen. She says she wants to help. It doesn't feel right that François should be here on his own, cooking for 16, even though he is the chef. She offers to slice onions and retrieve diced meat from the freezer, watches his hands as he works. The smell is of roasting tomatoes and rosemary. "This was one of my favorite," he says, "when I was a child." Abbey Road is playing on the tape deck. Roshin thinks of soft-boiled eggs and soldiers. The sun is setting again. 3 hours, 20 minutes of darkness. The night is increasing by 20 minutes each day. It is building up to the 21st of March, when things will be perfectly balanced, and there will be 12 hours of light and 12 hours of dark. Every day, Roshin marks the calendar with a cross. Turning over the page, a photo of lights, traffic, people, noise, the cityscape a world away. She checks the footnote. It is Cape Town, and underneath Cape Town, a day, 3 weeks away, is circled in blue. She stands outside and listens through the muffled layer of her hood to the absolute silence of snow and ice dust and rock. Sometimes François comes outside to stand with her, but she never asks what they will be cooking the next day for dinner. They hear on the radio that a group of sea lions have been spotted off the coast. The research team goes to investigate. Russian and some of the others, taking cameras with long lenses, notebooks, and food enough for 2 days. They're not far from the coast, but it still feels like a hike from the base. 4 hours walk in snow boots pulling the sleigh is not easy. There was training for this job, a series of tests you had to pass: physical, survival, psychological. As they approach the coast, they can see kelp gulls circling. Something must have died. On arrival, we see that something has. One of the sea lions has been killed in a fight over territory, or perhaps a female. We take photographs, look for any tags from other research teams, keep their distance. The red of its blood seems like the most vivid, most deeply colored thing Russian has seen for years. There is a building by the coast, a square, basic sort of place, where they can sleep or at least rest before making the hike home tomorrow. Lying down, Roshin turns to face the wall and cannot see the concrete, 2 inches from her eyes in the dark. She's alone. She's walking towards the dead sea lion even though she knows it's wrong. They're not allowed to get too close, not allowed to touch or interfere, but she sees the blood and has no choice. How did this happen? She asks the sea lion corpse, how did this happen? She tries to pick him up, but his skin is like whale blubber, and she's repulsed. She wakes, sick and longing and full of guilt. When they get back to see the base, she sees François in the kitchen. He turns, sees her. There is a look of wonder in his eyes that she wishes she understood, that she wants to share. The door is only half closed, and Roshan's eyes only half shut when she hears a quiet tap-tap at the window before sunrise. A rope has come loose from the sleigh they were using, snaking in the wind. I heard it too, François whispers on the doorway, hardly making a sound. He is wearing formal underwear and indoor boots, bobble hat, and knitted gloves. She would have laughed if her throat hadn't been so dry. He lies next to her on the bed, and together they listen to the whip of the rope on the glass, through snow. As the light dawns, she pulls off his hat. Sometimes late at night, François writes to Séverine, notepaper balanced on bent knees, head propped up on pillows. He describes the white, the snow, the sky so open he can see it curve around the burnt ice shelf and meet the horizon in a swirl of frozen blue. He describes the Halley 6 research station, each module standing self-sufficient on legs that keep it elevated above the floating ice, a strange caterpillar of research labs and sleeping quarters with a central red hub where they all meet to talk and wait for snowstorms to pass. As the days edge closer to winter, the pages of his letter take on a chill. He asks her how she is, if the sun is warm in Bayeux. He pulls the cover over his legs, rubs the scar on his thumb, and looks down at red fading to silver. The 2 colors of his world. I hope it's peaceful there, Mama, he writes. It is peaceful here, but I think a storm might be brewing. What am I supposed to see, he asks, taking the binoculars from his eyes. Russian smiles. Well, at this magnification, all you can make out is the comet's nucleus, which is the bright bit at the front. He puts the binoculars back to his eyes, thinks about telling her he's not so young as she imagines, and the tail, which is the stream of dust and ice that gets blown out behind as it accelerates towards the sun. So so it's ice. Ice and rock and maybe some bits of molecules, you know, the interplanetary junk that gets picked up along the way. It's not junk, he says, it's extraordinary. You remind me of someone from a long time ago. He turns to look at her. She hasn't mentioned her past before, and he doesn't know if he should ask her questions about it now. I used to watch the comets when I was a child, he says, with my mother. She was a scientist? No, he laughs, no. She just loved them. Do you think it's strange to love something you don't understand? Russian shakes her head. It's just human, she says. Why is next Monday circled on the calendar? The comet will be at its brightest. Is that all? He puts the binoculars down. His tone changes. Russian. Francois leaves his room and goes in search of something to dull his restlessness. They're playing cards in the central hub. He lingers by the door, then retreats back the way he came. He doesn't know why he's behaving like this. He has been knocked off balance, and worse, he didn't notice it happening. When he looks back at his letter to Severin, the smudges of the words make it look like he's been crying on the page. It doesn't matter. Of course, it will not be sent, not anytime soon. There is no airlifted postal service here. The next delivery is 6 months away. But even so, he describes the comet he has been watching with Roshan in the sky. I have seen its nucleus, he writes. I could make out its tail. It is a different color to the stars. Isn't that miraculous? I feel so close to home today and so far away. He folds his letter, written over weeks, and seals the envelope. Presses a first-class stamp to his tongue. The taste lingers long after the letter has been safely stowed at the bottom of his case. He heads outside. He needs to sleep under the stars tonight. Roshan opens the zip to Francois' tent slowly, not wanting to wake him if he's asleep. Not wanting to wake him if he's asleep. She's not sure what she's doing. She's not sure what he's doing out here, but she saw the red tent in the starlight and knew she had to join him. Are you sleeping? She whispers. Yes, he replies. That's good, she smiles. Well, it's so dark she knows he won't be able to see that. I'll just talk and you can sleep, she says, and we'll both feel better for it. She talks about Liam because she feels now that she has to speak about it if she has any chance of letting it go. And she suspects that Francois might have lost somebody too. There's a gust of wind that makes the taut fabric of the tent resonate like a string, ripple with harmonics. He closes his fingers around hers, but there is only a second of his closeness before she pulls away. I think I need to say goodbye, she says. I'm sorry. He follows her outside as she leaves, but not back to the base. He has his own past to remember or to forget. Instead, he turns away and starts packing up the tent by the light of the morning stars under the glow of the comet. The next night, Francois dreams there is a strange woman sitting on his bed with a voice he knows but has never heard before. So you found me, he says. I knew you were coming. It's cold, she replies. You're on the wrong continent. Could you take it easy on me, please? He says. I know why you're here. He opens his eyes to an empty watery room. He blinks. The water in his eyes clears for a second and then returns. He is surprised at the conviction of it. It is not logical, but undeniable nonetheless. He's been waiting for news even though the news couldn't reach him. He doesn't know what else he can do, so he drinks and cries and lets his heart break because he knows, somehow he knows, that tonight, a world away, his mother has died. Roshan hikes through the night, now and then stopping to take out her notebook from the side pocket of her jacket, marked with pencil what a comet is relative to the stars. She keeps walking until the base is no longer visible. She doesn't want any signs of humanity on the horizon. There is only one person she wants to see tonight. The wind is starting to get strong.